you to the real series that you've been watching in the lockdowns. It's themed as Mind Hunter, decoding cyber attacks using psychology and tools. Um, so, what's the fun fact about this whole thing is we're gonna take a deep dive into cyber crimes and kind of find out shocking patterns to see cybercrime is not about just computer. It involves a lot of human psychology and fear and a lot of these human parameters. So just having a computer does not alone make you a cyber attacker. Playing with people's mind is more important in this case. And I'm not coining any of these things. I've investigated several cases across the globe. Well, this is a study, my research on this, and I found out it's pretty interesting post all these research. Um, okay, so don't worry about it. Do you understand or not understand this? Have I prepared for this talk or should I learn something? Absolutely nothing. All I need is your good attention for 30 minutes or 35 minutes. And then we'll end of the day we'll learn together. So you can ask any questions you want, unmute yourself or pause me and ask me questions. So don't worry about your prerequisites here. This is like a funny slide. We usually put no malwares were harmed during the making of this presentation and analysis. And today everybody has a union for everything, so you have to be careful with these things. So, okay, so that was like a lovely introduction given by Mr. Shankar. Thank you so much. You all know that I'm a lead tech researcher. I head the Asia Pacific Research Group in Cisco umbrella, and I'm also TED speaker. I teach attack and defense mechanisms in Stanford. I'm also a visiting professor with International Institute of Digital Forensics, Andhra Pradesh. I work closely with Karnataka government and Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, ex-Chief Minister also, and a lot of government activities. I also work with the police to solve cyber crimes and kidnapping cases. So that's me. What a, and whatever picture you see on the screen is actually the real Iron Man vault. So it was taken in the US. Okay, coming to the no more beating around the bush. Coming to the real thing. So the cyber world has six infinity stones. So people who follow Marvel will understand the infinity stones. But if you have not followed it, don't worry about it. Infinity stone is a very powerful stone. So the cyber world is also has a very powerful stone called as the infinity stone. These are called as phishing, ransomware, scareware, Trojan, command and control, and bulletproof hosting. Now, what's the big deal about this? I mean, if I possess all these powers to get okay, if I possess all these powers together, I can bring down a country's infrastructure and a government together. It's called as a fire sale. Okay. If I do phishing ransomware, what's the nasty thing about this? If I host something on bulletproof hosting, it's a platform. And if I pass on Trojans to every personal user in the world or in a country, and if I steal data using scareware, I'll explain all these things later. And if I encrypt every hospital in the country using ransomware, and if I infect every bank with phishing, I can bring the entire country's infrastructure, water supply, food, medical attention, and put people to poverty. This is called as fire sale. The entire government, the military, everything collapses. So that's why people fear. If all these things come together, then it's a problem. It should never happen and will never happen. But one of the other things happen here and there, like phishing happens, ransomware happens. So I was just speaking about this. This is unlimited power. Now, before we set the context, I'm going to talk about something that involves your fears, personal fears. Now, this is like a funny thing. Okay, so this is one of the emails that I actually got, and a couple of my friends actually got. So pornography is a big problem today in the internet lives. So people who have been sent this email, read it carefully. Everybody would probably some people would have been getting this on a mass scale, saying that you've been watching pornography and I need $1,200 to keep your secret. Now, this is playing with someone's emotion. Okay, you do not know the face of the person. I'm not using any fancy hacking techniques or tools here. If I am the attacker, I'm playing with your mind here, correct? I mean, inducing fear in you, curiosity in you. So I'm making you think. You would not have watched it, but I'm making you think and making you scared that you have installed something or you would have watched something, you would have installed some tool. So inducing fear in you saying that you give me money. So this is technically kind of scaring somebody or playing with someone's emotions. So this will lead to a lot of things. You could either install, you would give money to that person. So I've not used any tools here. I'm just playing with your emotions. This is what cyber attackers usually do when they know their profile of a person. That's like if you're aged between 50 and 60, 12 to 20, they play with people's emotions like this. If anybody would have probably got some email like this, I'm sure most of you would have it. Do not give money to them. There's also another variant which guesses your password. So, well, I mean, that's also a cheating methodology. Okay. Um, if anybody could just unmute and give me an answer to what's the similarity between these two things. Any answers for this?
The direction at which they're looking.
Sorry, look at the which direction they're looking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty smart one. Okay, that's not the answer though, but still that's a good attempt. Good observation. Any other answers?
The first image is of Avengers. The second image is of Game of Thrones.
Okay, that's a correct answer too. Now, what's the similarity between these two things? So, thank thank you for the interesting answers. So, what's the similarity between these two things? These two things came on screen last year, and these were the two major milestones on TV history or movie history. Now, there were a lot of attacks based on these two things. This is called as inducing curiosity of a person. Entertainment industry is the biggest industry today. Netflix, Amazon, Prime, and then you watch Hotstar. These are the most important money-making platforms today, especially during this COVID phase of things. People are staying at home and they desperately want some entertainment to break free from these shackles that we are in today. But this is actually called as a campaign. These two were the most trending things in Twitter last year. And what if people start sending you emails saying that Game of Thrones episode is leaked? Avengers Endgame episode has been leaked. So people start downloading, installing software and watching it in for free or using free video players. Because of this, you would not believe it. There were attacks on some computers on ransomware and Trojan. That is, when you were downloading and watching these movies for free, which looked legitimate, or subtitles for these shows that looked legitimate, they were stealing data from your computer using a backdoor. Now, this is how a cyber attack involves. Cyber attack does not need to be geeky at all. It has to do with your common day-to-day life activities. So this is called as trending or campaign-based attacks because attackers keep watching Twitter to see which is the most trending thing. So similarly attributed to the Black Friday sale. Black Friday sale, everybody wants to buy for discounts. So like the New Year's time, everybody wants to buy something for a discount. So attackers claim it saying that 10,000 rupees off on your iPhone 7 or 8. So you click on it. This is called as a theme-based attack. Okay. For those who share your other friends' Netflix user ID and passwords, this is pretty shocking for you. This was actually a Netflix phishing email that many of the people that I know, or a couple of that at least I know, got infected with. So when they share their Netflix credentials, people think that this is legitimate and click on these things. All right, so this is the last example before we hit. I'm just giving you a sense of the cyber attacks that are actually happening in today before we start investigating cyber crimes. Now, this is a very, very, very big scam. This actually happened in person to a person who's actually stood next to me. I was in Spain, Barcelona, giving a talk in one of the biggest conferences, Cisco Live, when one of my friends who came with me lost his iPhone in a place called Rambala. Rambala is a very, very happening, at least 10,000 people roam around there. It's a most happening place, a party place, and then a bazaar kind of a thing, night bazaar. The next day, this person, he gets an email, or sorry, he gets an SMS from these two numbers. It says that your phone has been found in Rambala in this exact location, and click here to locate your iPhone. Now, what was the strange fact was he was an American and his phone was with the US. So it was easy for him to call back to the US, deactivate and get a eSIM for a new phone. So which actually apparently the same number that he can get for a new phone. That's what he did. And the next day he gets this SMS on this phone. Now, what we're seeing is called a spear phishing. Okay, that is, if a phishing is intended to a person or an email ID, it's called a spear phishing. Now, where can it happen? It can happen to your email ID if you have your email listed everywhere in LinkedIn or in Facebook or in Instagram, or if you sign for free promotional newsletters, 10% off or discounts on online products, your email is everywhere. As simple as that. When you go to the mall, people will just give you a small pamphlet saying that you could win a lucky draw. So you write your email ID there. Well, those things are actually sold in the internet for 500 rupees. A dump of 100 email or 1,000 email IDs is sold for 500 rupees. So that's one thing. And next is credential harvesting. What was credential harvesting? This. Now, when you update your account, you end up not looking at the Netflix and enter your Netflix password. That is actually called as credential harvesting. A famous spam sites or like malicious sites that give movies for free, like tamilrockers.com, they also sell these kind of credentials in their Instagram pages. And then business cards. The most worrying factor is people have their credit cards and business cards as wallets in their phones. So this person lost his credit card and his business card. So he ended up getting this message in his email and in his phone. Now, what is the shocking fact? This is what we observed. This is a real thing. So this actually all happened for real. I was there, and then I investigated this whole thing in Spain, right? Opening a laptop and sitting with him in the same bazaar. This was some 10 hours later. Now, if you see, the domain actually looks like iCloud. It's not iCloud. This actually is called as apple.com info/location/review. So this was the domain that I'm talking about, apple.com info. If you see one, two, three, four, fifth from the top, the one below the number one that says, this was the domain that was actually present in that. And if you see Apple ID, CDN, hyphen Apple, these two were malicious. So the trick is, if you click on any of these things and you enter your password, your Apple password is gone. And then even though it looks like an Apple site, it's not an Apple site. So this is called as, then we were doing a research on this and then we found out that when your phone is lost, people who sell the phones is one part of the gang and people who sell your data on the internet is the other half of the gang. You can read about this in the internet. There's a bigger research done by IBM on this. Pretty interesting thing. Internet. Okay. Now, why am I showing all these things? Because domain names are very, very important in such things. Now, if I steal data from your phone, if I steal some from your computer, if I ask you to click on an email, which is phishing, phishing is the art of duping something, right? I'm creating a duplicate website and asking you to click on something. Where does it all get hosted? Domain names. Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, MakeMyTrip.com. Domain names are very, very, very important. You're going to see how domain names play a vital role here. All right, so let's talk about it. So, ever wondered, I am getting a phishing email, and there is a link on that, and then it's asking me to click on a link. Now, how does this domain or a link that is sitting in my email asking me to do all these things? Strange. We would not even imagine these things. There are two ways that these things operate. One is a compromised WordPress site. The other is a term called bulletproof hosting. Everybody knows what's a WordPress. Can someone tell me what's a WordPress if you could unmute it?
It's a tool where we can build a website built layout and all.
Perfect, perfect. This is like a bang on answer. I think it's sure he put it bang on target. It's a tool or it's like a platform that helps you to build a helps you to build a website. Website often involves a lot of coding, a little bit of graphics or a little bit of like fancy stuff. It's pretty annoying at times for someone to learn and do it. Now, websites are the most important things and are inevitable things in our daily internet lives. Everybody has a website if you observe. Okay, everybody has a website if you were observed. Be it a small, be it a small, yeah, be it if it's be it if it's a small cake shop or cake baking shop or slipper store or cloth store, everybody has a website. Now, how do they manage to do this? WordPress brands it by saying like this. Now, this is a WordPress site. Okay, look, it all looks fancy, looks big for someone who's got a small shop. Okay, it's a small shop for someone and it looks fancy for them. So they have the visiting card. They say, go to my Instagram page, put a like on this, share it, and then start looking at it. And it's something big for them. Now, what's the fun fact is these are not developed by themselves. They are outsourced. They are outsourced to small vendors who just charge you 1,000 rupees or 800 rupees or 700 rupees to build a website like this. Now, the most shocking fact about these things is they end up putting all these custom plugins from the internet, which are malicious, or they leave the WordPress with a default password. Okay. Now, if you see, there's one agent who manages 100 to 200 websites of a community. Let's take you go to Commercial Street in Bangalore or some bazaar in Bangalore. There are like 30 to 40 shops. Okay. If there are 30 to 40 shops there, and in those 30 to 40 shops, all of them are managed by one vendor there who has a small browsing center. Now, he would have an admin panel of admin 123, password 123, and he would expose these admin panel to people. So what these attackers usually do is they hunt for these low-key websites with keywords and they try to brute force it. Brute force is an art of logging into a website by trying out passwords continuously. That's how they end up logging to these websites and host phishing URLs. And bulletproof hosting is a concept where if you pay 2,000 rupees, the hosting provider does not bother what you host, and you end up hosting ransomware or trojans and all these things. Now, these are the two important URLs, is what you guys know. These are the three most important infrastructure related things that you need to know. Now, this is how phishing is actually hosted in real life. If you see a fish hosted on a website, either the website is compromised or it is being hacked by someone because of a weak password, or if it's a bulletproof hosting, that is the hosting provider does not care about it. Okay. Now, these are the things that actually is what we've been talking about. Now, where does forensics come? Now, I spoke about the cyber attack, how a cyber attack happens, what are the common cyber attacks that happen. If I have to investigate a case and figure out how the cyber attack happened, you need to get into the profession called forensics. It's what we do. Okay. So forensics is of different. It's actually a very cool and a headache profession, to be honest. Uh, Even before just delivering the talks, one of the German banks is actually hacked. We've been sitting there on that case for the last 17 and a half hours to see how they got hacked. So it's not easy. It looks like James Bond. You can wear a suit, travel all over the world, and speak in conferences. You get the best five-star rooms, best business class tickets in the aircraft, but you have to pay a little price for it. It involves a lot of stress at times and thinking like a detective, which is what we're going to see. Now, digital forensics is divided into these three types. I would usually put as four types: malware, network, data, and Windows forensics. Forensics is something like examining, it's like a detective. It's doing a post-mortem or investigating a crime scene. Okay. So these are the different types of forensics that is there in the industry. We predominantly engage on the first, all of these malware, network, data, and Windows. We're going to speak about this, what is what. So I'm going to cover small snippets or examples to see how forensics is carried out in each of these ways. Okay. Now, so okay, okay. No worries. So, okay, what happens here is they're like malware forensics, network, and data forensics. Now, what's malware forensics? If you are infected with a malware, for some example, you watch a free TV show online and download something into your computer, and if I retrieve the file that is the reason for it, it's malware forensics. If I have the file with me, if I investigate the file, it's malware forensics. Network forensics is a common thing that actually happens all over the world. The banks or the hospitals, they get infected and they have no bloody idea how they got infected. But they will say something, sir, we have been capturing the network traffic of who browsed what and what happened. I can give you the PCAP. PCAP is a network capture using a Wireshark tool, which I'll show you. Data forensics is data at rest, what we have. It can be files, it can be emails, it can be anything, any evidence that we have. And finally, is the Windows forensics, which is the most common thing. It's like if an incident happened on a computer, we inspect the RAM of the computer, hard disk of the computer. Satya, if you could just mute yourself, it would be useful. So, yeah, okay. So Windows is forensics is nothing but when you have the hard disk, the RAM, and all those things that you actually investigate. That's Windows forensics. All right, so let's just get deep dive into each of these things now. It'll be pretty quick and short so that you get the full flavor of what entirely happens when a cyber attack actually happens and what this forensics profession or a threat hunting profession is all about. Okay, so the malware forensics is just a little trick. Okay, we call it this as a little trick. Why is this a little trick? It's like the magic trick that you watch in a movie called Prestige. So there are like three stages to the magic. Once the art of making the audience believe, and then this is what I say: when you make the user believe that this is a good link that you're clicking on, and you convince them enough to click is the second thing. And the third thing that it's what unfolds after you open a file, you click a link. That's the dark magic. That's what usually happens in any cyber attack. Because any cyber attack, if you observe, is being initiated by a human being. That is you. You're the user. Unless you click on something, it does not work, right? A phishing mail, you click on something. A file that you run the file. So unless without a human intervention, it's not possible. So what happens post that is actually a magic trick. So these are the common malwares that you see. Ransomware, you all know that you get a file, you click on it, or you install something, you run a file, it encrypts your whole computer and it demands money. So scamware is something common when you play free games in the internet. You suddenly see a pop-up saying that your computer is infected. Install antivirus. That's basically scaring you. So this is a big scam in London, targeted towards aged people 60 to 75 or 55 to 75, because most of them are old and they do not know much about computers. So what they do, these attackers do, is they make them call to a call center number and they extract thousands of pounds from them. They say your computer, because the kids work elsewhere, they say your computer is infected, you need to clean up. We charge £100 or a £500 for your antivirus cleanup, and they extort money. A Trojan is bundled with legitimate software. I think all of you students, you'll be aware, you'll be using all these document to PDF converter or CC cleaner or MP3 cutter, MP3 player, video players that you want to watch or plugins to watch free movies. All of them are actually bundled with Trojans. So Trojans are bundled with a legitimate software. So it will look like a legitimate software for you, but it's actually a Trojan. The most scary stuff here is when you convert a free software to a full version. Like you have a crack to play these things, to convert a free version to a full version. Those are actually Trojans. If you see, your antivirus will alert you. So they are bundled with legitimate software and it opens a door back to the attacker and steals your information. These are the common malwares that we see in today's industry. And they'll just get into the real whole thing called as mind hunting. Now, what is this mind hunting? This is called as profiling. So profiling a criminal or profiling a case. Now, what is profiling here? Ransomware. If I profile ransomware, I would say that there's going to be a small piece of exe or a document that is going to come in and do some nasty stuff. Now, if it's going to steal only my credentials, it's called as a Trojan. If it steals my entire data, it's called as a ransomware. Now, how do I profile this? I should profile the criminal who's writing this attack. Is he making it easy for me to do something, or if it's gonna be super difficult for me to crack the case? So, as an investigator, you profile the criminal who writes such attacks. So, for example, we're gonna show you a couple of examples here to do a profiling. It most of the times when we solve a cyber crime, it's not very easy to come to the end to solve the case, right? So when we come to that extent, if it's easy all the way, then there's something majorly difficult in the end. This is profiling. So this is studying the mind of the attacker to see that he's going to keep some twist in the end so that you waste your time. Or if it's too difficult in the beginning, it's going to be easy in the end. This is called as profiling a case. Now, how does a common infection spread? Usually, you would have seen this Coca-Cola lucky draw, or you get an email saying that I'm stuck in Nigeria. Open this document to send me money, or it will say Amazon invoice, fake Apple iTunes ID, and then you open it and you end up. So, what's the trick behind it? You get a document, you open a document, and you are congratulations, you're infected. How? Well, how does so you need to understand one thing. You have an antivirus engine with you. You have an antivirus engine with you. And why is this antivirus engine not catching all of these things? You have to understand one fact. Every malware is a piece of code. Okay. It's a software. What's a software? A software is a bunch of code, lines of code written and bundled in C++, Visual Studio, or it can be in any language, Java, or anything of that sort. It's just a piece of code. Now, when you bundle the piece of code and package it, it's either an exe or it's something of it's a program or it can be called anything. Now, when it comes to your antivirus engine, the antivirus looks for two things. One is signature, that is, if it's seen in the past, or it will try to do a deep inspection to see how it behaves. Now, how does it bypass? Most of the people have this worry saying that even though this is a malware, how did it bypass my computer, or how did it bypass my antivirus engine? That's what we'll probably see, which is called as network forensics. So if you see this, this is like a classic joke that Windows firewall doesn't catch any of these Trojans. It's supposed to catch it. How does that happen? Okay, so what is an intrusion detection system do? You have antivirus engines. It's a host based, so it's called an endpoint detection system. That is, if you have Kaspersky installed in your computer, it's an endpoint detection system for your computer. If it sees any previously known malware or traces of it, it catches. And it's anomaly. What's an anomaly? Your paint is supposed to draw and save pictures, or your Word document is supposed to type and save Word documents. What if your Word document goes and opens a browser and opens a website? It's not intended to do it. That's anomaly. So that you call as an anomaly, and your antivirus immediately flags it. But still, how does these softwares or malwares bypass is what you're going to see. They get into a thing called as obfuscation. If you see my left side, this is a classic code like document.write my code. Let's take an example that your antivirus engine has to stop any file that carries my code. Okay, if it carries the string my code, your antivirus engine has to stop it. Okay. Now, what attackers do is if I send a file with my code, obviously the antivirus engine is going to catch me. Now, what should I do? I need to evade. I need to obfuscate my code, or I need to play a smarter trick. What attackers do is on the right side is what they do. They split these words into D, document, and my code. And when they arrange everything together, it becomes document.write my code. This is called as obfuscation. I'm going to show you a real malware which is heavily obfuscated. Now, this is one of the most famous malwares that we got inside a Word document. So this actually infected a couple of banks, and then I had a chance to look into it. This is a big code, okay? And this is obfuscated. If I had the real code, my antivirus would have actually blocked it. Now, when we deobfuscated it, can anybody tell me how we could deobfuscate this? Any suggestions?
Values.
Can you tell me how you could deobfuscate it?
Need to know the encryption scheme.
Need to know the encryption. No, see, okay, okay. I want more answers. So this is called as the mind hunting. Okay, we are trying to read the attacker's mind here. What would he would have done here to bypass it? Okay, good. That's a good answer. Need to know the decryption key. What else? What else answers you have?
Maybe take all the capital letters and ignore all the numbers and special characters.
Very smart. Okay, so that is one level of obfuscation. They call it as a right rotation shift or red. Perfect. I tried it all, Manish. I tried it all. Okay, so it didn't work. Any other answer? That's a good answer too. Two good answers. So the attacker is making you think.
Using a
Uh,
chain break rule.
that's also a very smart answer. Mhm. But if I give you the answer for this question, you'll probably all quit the call and say, what the hell? Okay. Any other answers? Any other answers?
You break the code and execute it part by part yourself.
Smart. That's a very smart way of doing it. That's a very smart way. So, but there's a small trouble here. If I do it part by part, I need to know what's the starting, what's the ending, because it's all gibberish. Okay. Now, this is where the mind hunting concept comes into picture. Now, I'm thinking with the attacker now, saying that why did the attacker? So the real fun fact about this piece of code was I got a document. I went inside the document and I was able to find out that something is hiding inside the document which is malicious. So the first three steps has been really easy for me, and I know the fourth step that is gonna solve the problem is going to be difficult. Okay. Now, why does the attacker keep this gibberish? This is the most important part. Now, if I see the code, I'm going to solve the problem. And what the attacker is doing here is he's allowing this code to execute in your computer, and he's going to steal all the information and he's going to take it. Where is he going to take it? To some IP address or some server that he runs or some website he owns. Okay. Now, if this was in plain text, it could have the IP address and the domain name. I can easily look at it and block it. So he's making my life miserable here. What he earns out of this is sadistic pleasure. One. Second thing is he's delaying your investigation process. The more the time it takes for you to solve this crime, the more the damage is going to cause with this malware spreading. Any one more answer before we look at the answer?
Converting the text into some specific type like a dat file or some exe file like that.
Hash values. Using hash values.
Yeah, hash values. All of the answers are actually correct. And these have been used in the past to decode malwares. 100% correct answers. Okay. But I decided to do something very simple. Okay. I got a lot of appreciation in the internet for doing this, and several other competitors also appreciated me for this. Now, I actually told you about something, right? Always keep your basics simple. What is program? A program is a piece of code. Now, let me break it down into a simpler part. A program is nothing but it takes an input and gives you an output. So let us not treat this as a malware. Instead, I treat this as a program. So this program is taking an input and is going to give an output. Okay. Now, this is where your investigation or your detective brains come into picture. Now, this is definitely a program. Now, what are the programming languages? Because I don't know what this is. It cannot be C++, it cannot be Java, because C++, Java, and Golang are all heavy languages. Okay, that is, they occupy files in MBs at times, or like it's a bigger file. And to compile and run it in the end user's computer is a lot of pain. There can be only two options. This can be a Python or this can be a Perl file. Because when I steal something from your computer, it's easy for me to use this predefined libraries or packages to steal data out of your computer and ship it fast to the attacker. So what I did was a very, very, very lame thing, but it actually worked. So I changed the eval here to print. Okay. And I saved this file as a .pl and a .py file. And I tried Python space test.py, it didn't work. And I tried Perl test.pl. Okay, I changed the eval to print, and then I saved it as a Perl file and I ran it. There you go. You see this? I changed it as a Perl test.pl and I have the answer. Now, what I figured out was look at how the code has changed from here to here. Now, this is the actual code. If you see that you see in 146.185 under servidor as an IP address, and then it's doing something localhost, it's getting a nickname. You know what it is doing? Once it enters your computer, it converts your computer as a bot. That is, it gives an identity to your computer and establishes communication with a chat channel, and it steals data from you. And we also found out that this was heavily operated in Spain because I used the Google Translate to see servidor, porta, canias, all these are Spanish words. So this is called as forensics at a malware level where you outsmart the attacker. We have to think like the attacker in this position and outsmart him. This is like intelligence, security intelligence that we would technically call. Look for clues, use Google heavily for clues. This is called as intelligence. Now, this is another malware which was clueless, and I will show you something interesting here. Like I'm gonna run my screen live for you guys so that you get the point. This was heavily complex malware because this was a Word document. We need to look for patterns. We have to hunt for patterns. I was just looking through it. Do you see a keyword called NBYURE3 here? So then you use a concept called security intelligence, and we need to Google to figure out what does NYB second URE3. Is this the word we're looking for? Perfect. I was looking for this pattern called NYBURE3. And if you see, there is a domain that's actually associated with it. It says .top get NYBURE3. And this is related to a ransomware. Sometimes you need not even look for deep clues. Instead, just Google for things and figure out. I found the word NYBURE3, and there's a domain name called as .info/AF or something. There's a top domain, there's an RO domain, there are like a super bunch of domains. Now, when I checked for the internet for this pattern, I need not even investigate the case, and I figure out this is a ransomware. This belongs to a JAF ransomware family. This is how you probably use security intelligence using Google to hunt for patterns. When you investigate such cases, there's a mutex. There's a word called mutex. Each malware has a unique big string that you actually observe like a pattern here, right? The NBI will tell it's a ransomware. A mutex is a string used by malware and it puts in your computer. It gives you a 15 character string to your computer and says, hey, you know what, in this computer, let it be. Because when a new malware comes and infects it, it will not infect your computer because it will look for the string and say, okay, this malware, the computer has been previously infected and I'm not going to infect it. That's called as mutex. With that mutex, we can find out what is the family of the malware. And then it has domains, obfuscation, very long strings is what we found. What's the basic thing? I cannot stop every malware in the planet. Okay. But if the malware, as we saw in both the examples, has an IP address, has a domain name inside it, if we take the domain down, that's called as the command and control. That is, whatever is stolen from your computer goes to the domain or the instructions come from the domain. If we block it, then you take down the entire infrastructure. It's impossible for you to stop every family of the malware that comes, but if you take down the command and control where the instructions come from, the domains, it's possible for you to stop it. Uh, the other way to study malwares is use honeypot, that is deliberately opening ports in your computer, deliberately having a weak password in your computer, and advertising that computer everywhere in the internet. We caught a lot of these IPs that are from attackers. We basically open the computer to attackers to see what they're doing, and then we study their behaviors. This is called as a honeypot. It's called as a behavior analysis of attackers, making them play to see what sort of crime rates and what sort of crime styles they follow. You always have to hunt like Indiana Jones, like go to the bottom and look for things and look for pieces and artifacts, interesting information, how we saw in those both the files. Now, this is a log. This is like a log as an evidence. Most of the countries or the companies have log as an evidence. If you see, you can see a password called as root and admin, root and password. You can see these things. This is actually an IoT sensor, and this is a WordPress site that we purposefully built. So the attacker used the password root and admin, which is a default password. If you Google for WordPress bad passwords or commonly used passwords, you'll see it. The attacker simply used those passwords and he logged into the computer, root admin, and then he was able to host these malwares in the domain or the server. This is logs as an evidence again. The logs tells me that there's a pattern UGCC, there's a domain name there. So this is the key evidence. Either it's your logs, every computer has logs. If you have a Linux machine, you have to go to logs, you can see the system logs. Logs is like a CCTV camera. If it's on, it checks every minute by minute, evidence who walked in. You can find out who came in, who went out using a CCTV camera. Your logs is a CCTV camera in any server or in any computer. Now, this is like capturing evidence through PCAP file. That is, if you have a network capture, right? I mean, if you have a Wi-Fi, and if I tap the Wi-Fi and capture the traffic going out of the Wi-Fi, I can see what everybody is surfing in the college or in a family. Now, usually, this is a packet capture from the JAF ransomware I showed you. If you observe, you see in the bottom, there's something called as titanmachinery.com.au. And if you can also see, I can just exit and highlight you those parts. You can see here, the NBIYURE3 is actually seen here. This gives, as I told you, gives you a pattern. I immediately Google and find out what it is. Network capture evidences usually come into picture when you have no idea. You suddenly see that your computer is being encrypted, and all your files have been encrypted. People don't know what's actually happening. So this is when you use it, and you have a packet capture. It will tell you who accessed what, who went into what, who, and all these evidences it gives you. Now it helps me to form a timeline saying, okay, somebody in this house or computer they got into this NBYURE3 and they accessed this titanmachinery.com.au and then they got infected. So this gives you step by step saying that, okay, they access the site and I'm able to follow the stream. And then I'm able to see that, oh my God, so this is titanmachinery.com.au is what somebody clicked on. So if I quickly Google about it, titanmachinery.com, that's not the one, I guess. titanmachinery.com.au, sorry. .com.au, it does not give you much of the details here. So this is when you use something called as virus total. Okay. Now virus total. So I'm actually doing a live investigation with you. If you observe, a virus total is an antivirus, like a hub for these antivirus sites that they sit on. If you give a URL or a file, it will tell you if it's malicious or not. I'm gonna quickly pick up titanmachinery.com.au. Awesome. So it says, oops, It says, so this is a collection of 64 antivirus vendors. They'll say, tell if the site is good or not. Nobody actually talks about it. And it also gives you a bunch of details. You can explore that later. But there's something very funny fact here. Okay? I'm looking for a particular pattern here. Do you see this here? NBIYURE3. I see the same thing here. NBYURE3. So if I connect the case together, somebody accessed this website. It might have come from an email, and they were able to click on this URL with this pattern. If you see a get, that means it's downloaded something. I want to find out what exactly was downloaded. And it's a malware. We figure out that this is a malware. And what's the most funny fact is it's an online shop. Now, if you trace back to our story, this was some sort of website was created for a small store. You would have used a default password of admin and logged in and created a pattern like this. NBIOR is associated with the ransomware. We note that this pattern is associated with this URL is associated with ransomware, and they drop the ransomware in your computer. And that's how the whole infection started. Okay, so this tells you the story. See, it's like a CCTV camera, tells you the entire picture. Lastly, file as an evidence is nothing but if you see files like this, you take the file and you inspect the files inside it. We got a file like this. We ran a command strings against a file, and we found out this file contains these strings. This was a Bitcoin miner. So what really happened? So this file was actually decoying itself, saying that it was a good file, and we actually found out who it was. Then we found out it was talking to a ransomware domain. If you see ransomware.bit, creator.bit, these are all ransomware domains, and it was actually using one's computer to mine for Bitcoins. So the last part, the shocking part, what if you watch free TV shows? What happens? This is called as a subtitle file. Everybody knows what's a subtitle file, right? So this is a kind of an attack where you download subtitle files. Subtitle files actually look like this. It's just a text file, okay? But what actually happens is there are malicious subtitle file actors. What they technically do is a concept called as Google bombing, okay? Now, what's Google bombing? That is, if there's something called as page rank algorithm, okay? If your website contains the most number of links, it has got a high chances that your website will come first in the Google search. So what attackers usually do is they bombard these kind of subtitle files like in huge numbers inside a website, and then they embed these malicious files with good files. Okay, if there are 30 subtitle files, there are 2 subtitle files that are bad. What exactly happened was, you see Kodi, Popcorn, VLC, Streamio players, they had a vulnerability in the past. That is, if you put this malicious subtitle file, it had a bug. When you insert a subtitle file, it opens a backdoor to your computer. So while you were watching the movie, the attackers were actually streaming there, or the attackers are actually stealing data from your computer. So if you have any of these players, make sure you have the latest update. So this was achieved because of Google bombing, and yeah, so that was actually speaks volumes about these crimes. So actually, yeah. So this is actually the entire forensics gig. I mean, it might sound dry at times, but it's very interesting to do. So these are the different set of skills or different type of investigations you do to become a forensic investigator, a threat researcher, or whatever it is. Okay. So if you are ready to be the Batman or like the superhero guarding these things, you should always remember something important. This is a cat and mouse game. No matter how many times you try to save the world, attackers keep coming back again and again. It's like playing the Super Mario game. The princess is always another castle. It's a catch me if you can mechanism. So So that's what we've seen. We've seen the types of cyber crimes and investigation methodologies, how forensics investigation works. And that actually brings me to the end of the talk. I hope it was not boring. I've tried to make it very interesting so far. So I'm up for questions. But before that, I saw one question in WebEx. I want to probably take that question up. I'll stop sharing my screen. Awesome. Okay, what was that?
Y- Yeah, so Shyam, there are quite a few questions on the chat
Sure,
window.
sure,
So
sure.
probably, yeah, so we would be going one by one and then you can answer it for us. But before that, like there is a question from my side. So probably if you can start with that, it would be great. So just wanted to know the difference between social engineering and mind hunting. So are there any predominant difference or it is part of social engineering or what exactly is
There's,
that? Yeah.
there's no difference between, it's different brand names. It's like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, both taste the same, and it's just different brand names. Social engineering is to lure you to do something. Mind hunting is to play with your mind so that you do something. So both involves the same mind crimes, and it's a different brand game. Social engineering is at like revealing the password or making you do something. But mind hunting, it's totally different. You step into the attacker's or the user's shoe to see to what all deep extents they go. So it's a deep dive of, so it's a deeper version of social engineering is actually called as mind hunting.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer, Shyam. So the question on the chat, let's get started. So there's one which says, as a user, can we get to block the domain and the command control? If so, how do we do it?
So that is why you have these firewalls. So this is when the investigation basically starts. So you should have an enterprise level firewall or a firewall list in your Linux computers where you block these domains. These are called as rules, firewall rules. Allow and deny. If you have a Linux, you can allow or deny these IP addresses or domains from not coming in. Traditional big companies have something called as IPS or IDS, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection systems. All these antivirus engines that I told you are part of that. And then they have a big rule. If you give these domains to those intrusion prevention detection systems, they constantly help you to allow or deny these domains.
Thank you. So the next question would be, what are the differences between cybersecurity in cloud and on-premise?
So cybersecurity in cloud more depends on user restrictions and policies and sensitive content hosted, who can access it. So there's a very big difference between on-premise or in your computer. The rules and the risk is by you. Okay. If it's on cloud, it's company because the company is allowing you to access or host your data in someone else's computer. Okay, people just laugh at me if I tell this, and they think, "Oh, you rubbished off the whole thing." Cloud is nothing but someone else's computer. Okay, you
Exactly.
host your data on someone else's computer, and the risk involved is more because you're hosting your personal data or a company's personal data on that. But cloud has got a lot of security measures or security for it. I mean, there are several DDoS mechanisms, prevention, access controls. It's a whole different ball game. But if it's an endpoint security, it's each computer is protected and permissions are there. Scanning of files is different. You can do a deep scanning of a file, but the cloud, it works totally different. It's more of a traffic base. Only if I deny you from not accessing the data in the cloud, there's no question of deep scanning there. So the policies vary between a cloud and an endpoint.
Thank you for that. So there's the interesting question on watching movie online. Should we be really watching movies online? If
Okay.
we at all want to do, like, what precautions should we take?
Okay, so don't watch anything for free. It's all about maybe 2 to 3 of you people, get together and share a subscription ID. Be very cautious about it. But don't always think if someone's giving it for free, there is a catch in that, right? Nobody wants to do social service today here. Nobody wants to give you an interesting movie of a software for free for you, right? So never watch these free stuff or all these things online. And it'll ask for your payer access. You don't read any of these things. It can sniff your passwords. Don't download torrent files. Pay money or share a subscription. See, Netflix has become affordable, like $400 per month. If you join together, probably you can just pay $120. Yeah. And make sure that you have a WhatsApp group and you're aware saying that, hey, I'm watching right now, I'm using right now. So that have a separate, we have WhatsApp group for everything in this world today. Have a WhatsApp group for this and be in touch so that you don't lose your credentials.
Thank you, Shyam. That was a good one. So, what about Google suggesting strong passwords? Have you ever threatened by these bugs? How will you ensure that you secure your PC?
Okay, so that means that if I tell that, it means giving away answers for the password hackers, which I would not do it. Always do not have any of your passwords. That's so very simple. Social engineering is if I go to any of your Facebook pages, I know the list of shows that you watch, places you have probably traveled, your vehicle number, date of birth, your relatives, family members, date of birth, everything. So everything, a password is basically a combination of all these things, correct? It can be any, because nobody wants to keep a password which is 2JK $23 143 million 231, because you cannot remember it, right? So you all try to keep a same password across everywhere or keep it something like this. I usually do this. I write my password inside a small notebook and put it in a locker. So all my passwords inside a notebook, which means you have to come bypass my security main gate, bypass the lift, bypass me, and bypass all the family members to get the diary out. So old school ways to write passwords and keep in a notebook and keep it safe. Don't write in a notebook that everybody sees it, then it becomes public information, becomes a poster. So don't do that.
Okay, thank you. So while we take few more questions, there is a request to pop up the slide which with the Iron Man suit. So probably if you can bring that up, we can move on the remaining questions.
You want to watch that? Okay.
There is a
Ready,
request on the chat. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm a big Marvel fan and a Batman fan. So all my Batman related stuff that you can actually see. Okay, I can turn on my video if you want to see me. Or people who've not seen me, this is me. Um, there you go, that's me. And you can see a big Batman symbol behind me. And this is my small lab that I sit and work out of. You'll see a lot of computers and a lot of stuff. Okay, so you want to see the Iron Man suit? That's the Iron Man suit picture here.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's go over the next question. So what is your opinion on ad blocker and ghost free extension on web browser?
I'm not a fan of these ad block things that we usually do. And I don't install plugins also. I'm not sure about this ghost thing that they probably asked me about. I'm not too sure about it. I'm not too sure about it. But never extend any of these plugins, because the plugins are the main reason of reading your history or your passwords or your cookies. It can be nasty most of the time. So I don't personally use those things.
Okay, okay, thank you. So this is an interesting one. Can a computer engineer with a psychology degree be a good mind hunter?
Oh, definitely. You can be like me. I'm like a BTech IT graduate with no master's degree. I have 12 years of experience, self-taught person. I have no idea what the hell psychology is all about. I learned this psychology stuff using Mindhunter, Sherlock series, and talking to a couple of psychologists that I know from my friend's circle. I was able to do all these things without these things. I don't even have a proper master's degree, and I teach at Stanford. So the studying doesn't matter. Your passion and your interest matters. So.
I should say it's very inspiring though. Okay, so the next question is, will two-factor authentication helpful for those who get our credentials?
Yes, it would definitely help you with two-factor authentication. It's definitely safe. But there's a myth. Two-factor authentication was also broken using SIM jacking, which is really scary. But multi-factor authentication is very important. A fingerprint authentication on your phone and generating a password and keying it back. It's like a three-factor, to be honest. Cisco follows three factors. And then you get a request to your phone and you approve the request, and then you have to key in a password into the computer again to access it. So like, yeah, that's pretty safe.
Okay, so we combining the next questions on online passwords. How safe are online password stores like Firefox, Lockwise, and LastPass? So, and also a connected question is, so the remember password feature on different websites, is it safe or not?
I would never recommend the remember passwords, but I'm a big fan of this LastPass software because they have a very full, the one password, the last password are really good, amazing password storing mechanism because each of your data is encrypted and hashed into a format that's pretty not easy to break. So don't not go for these low-key password solving management things. Instead, go for this last pass and one password. They're pretty brilliant. So I would suggest that.
Okay, there are few questions on antivirus, and in the interest of time, I would be combining it.
Sure.
It says that sometimes we install free antivirus and then we get our IP address exposed personal data and ask for subscription for protection. And the next is, does antivirus software really protect our systems?
Well, the antivirus definitely protects your systems. It depends on which brand of antivirus you buy. You have to purchase a good. Kaspersky is really good. They have a good bunch of hashes, and then they protect your antivirus, protects your computer. So it's pretty good. It's obviously useful because only 2% or the 3% of the attackers follow new tips and tricks. Most of them follow the old tricks. So the antivirus helps you to defeat these patterns. What was the first question? I mean, what is I missed that. I'm sorry. What was the first one?
It's like most of the antivirus vendors offer it for free. Should we be really going for a free antivirus?
So if you go for a free, I mean, you get what you get, right? So if you get free, you only get limited protection. That is only it stops the basic attacks. It does not do a deep scan in your computer. So free is good to a level, but it all takes like what for a year they charge some 500 rupees today. So buy a three license, three friends combine, put money together and buy one.
Okay, the next question is, using emails on networking sites is inevitable, and even though we refrain from displaying our credentials, there's always room for the attack. How do we organize our mails and systems even after employing a firewall?
So always have an email ID that you use for your shopping, only for shopping, only for watching something that they do on the internet, subscription level stuff. If you have a personal and other stuff, do not even entertain that email ID. Just use it only for communication purpose. Do not do key in everywhere. There should be one email ID always that is actually related only for keying in outside and stuff. The other email should be purely personal or professional. It's inevitable. I mean, see, invention, which is put in the wild or put it outside. If the people using it, there are hundreds of people misusing it. It's inevitable. So, but there are strict mechanisms. User awareness should be there. Be careful what you see and do. So that's
Yeah, perfect.
someone
I
say.
agree with you that. So,
Yeah.
like we have overshot by 5 minutes, so we will take one more last question and wind it up.
Sure.
So it's basically like, what is your take on mobile wallets and are they safe enough?
Okay. So I'm not a okay. I'm still work on cash. I do not use mobile wallets. So, okay, the problem with mobile wallets is it's simple and easy. If something is if something is very simple and easy, problem is it's prone to something. The lot of OLX fraud and quicker frauds actually happen because of this wallet. There are people who just come to your ads and they say, okay, you're selling a sofa, scanning the QR code, and then they take money from your account. Especially if it's a Google Pay or if it's Paytm is safe in that way. I'm not sure about either of the other things. If you have a wallet, always keep recharging it. Do not link your bank account to it so that people don't withdraw money from that. So, and somebody asked me for a speaker contact here. Okay, this is not boasting about me. All you have to simple do is just Google about me. Type in Google Shyam Sundar Ramaswami and you can find me. There's all details about me there.
Yeah, thank you, Shyam. So I think it was very insightful session, and our student community will definitely bank on the tips that you have shared during today's presentation. So before we conclude, is there any final word that you want to share with the student community here?
Sure. So I heavily interact with students. I run a mentoring program called Being Robin. So I have close to 500 students all over the world in IITs, Ramaya College, Pesset, RV, Berkeley, San Jose State University. Some people are from Stanford also. So I help them to do their final year projects on help them to do cybersecurity related final year projects, and help them to get into this field. So you can contact me in either LinkedIn, catch me in LinkedIn. If you catch me in LinkedIn, then I can help you with these things. So reach out to me. It was very interesting to speak to all of you. I hope you guys liked it. It was worth your 1 hour's time. So thank you for patiently listening to me and an opportunity for me to speak at this forum.
Definitely, Shyam. It was very insightful session, as I said. So for all the participants here in today's session, we request you to join us for last session, which is tomorrow, on headless startup setup of Raspberry Pi by Mr. Guru Prasad, DevOps and Agile coach Cognizant. And yes, like we are signing off for the day. Thank you once again, Shyam.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.